The strained relations between Russia and Ukraine rose another notch today. Moscow has cut off gas supplies to Ukraine as a payment deadline passed and negotiators failed to reach a deal on gas prices and unpaid bills. For more on this story, we're joined in Washington by Boris Zilberman. He is with the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies, a nonpartisan policy institute that focuses on foreign policy. Boris, what do you make of this here, the motivation of what's going on? Gazprom saying you haven't paid your bill, we're cutting it off.
Well, I think it's another escalation that we've seen over the past few days, starting with the downing of the Ukrainian military transport plane in Luhansk, and now you've got this cutting off of gas to Ukraine. And I think it's against the backdrop of opportunity for Putin that he sees on the world stage, as the focus is on Iraq for the most part, certainly in Washington, D.C., and there's not as much a drumbeat against Russia. There haven't been sanctions announced in a while, and not as many visits by John Kerry or other Western officials to Ukraine. So I think he's seeing this as an opening to maybe escalate and push the ball towards his side. What
are the consequences, Boris, likely to be here? I mean, it is, of course, summertime, so it is not as perhaps pressing as it might have been had this come during the winter time. But I mean, the implications for those on the ground in Kiev and elsewhere in the country.
For them, for now, they're cut off from gas. For Europe, apparently Gazprom is still sending in natural gas through these pipes, and Ukraine is obligated to let it go without obviously skimming any of it off. Now, the gas that goes through Ukraine provides about 15% of all the natural gas that Europe consumes. So if this drags on, and for some reason the supply to Europe through Ukraine is somehow disturbed because of even further escalations in the east, if even more military strikes happen, or somehow the pipelines themselves get damaged in this fighting, which is very possible, then you could see ramifications come fall and winter, because I don't think anybody sees this letting up anytime soon.
The Russians would have the world believe that this is a purely economic situation. You haven't paid your bills. We've been warning you for a while. Now you owe us, and we're going to cut off the supplies until you pay up. There's a lot more going on than just that, though, isn't there?
Absolutely. Over the past few days, you've seen supposed movements of armor and other vehicles, again, potentially building up on the border, and this could be part of more tough negotiations, or it could be a sign that Putin sees an opening to conduct further military operations. And at this point, it's been very much of a stealth war, but if he sees an opening, I wouldn't put it past them to escalate things. We saw in the past few days that NATO confirmed that at the very minimum, 3 tanks were allowed to transfer Russian soil to Ukraine. Now, whether they're Russian or they were, brought in from somewhere else, my bet that they were Russian and they were transferred over to the separatists, and NATO has the satellite images to prove that.
So as we're following this economic story about the gas supplies, I mean, the larger story continues to be, Boris, what is going on in Donetsk, Luhansk, in eastern Ukraine, and the sort of back and forth, tit-for-tat sort of insurgency that's happening there with, in all likelihood, Russian tacit support, if not direct support.
Absolutely. I would think it's more on the direct as far as where they're getting these arms. The border area is porous, and if Russia sees that they can also, for their payment, they could take the eastern part of the country, which is coal-rich and natural gas-rich. They may look at that as their payment. That is backlogged of billions of dollars. That Ukraine has been willing to negotiate and set up a payment plan, but the Russians have always found reasons to find complications. And one of the things the West could do, Alexei Miller has not been sanctioned as of yet, the Gazprom head who's made this announcement today, and that's a potential avenue for Western action as a result of this cutting off of natural gas to Ukraine.
Thanks for your time, Boris.
Thank you so much, Todd.